Hello. Welcome to the Detroit Experience.
Greetings, temple people. Arhon Okvals here. The temple is once again open. In today's video we will be covering one of the best examples of a prequel done right. Today the temple proudly hosts Deus Ex Human Revolution.
Well, shit, if it ain't the captain himself.
How you doing, Letitia?
Now I already know what you are thinking. What about the original that started it all? Why start from the 2011 prequel? First of all, do not worry, the original will have its time at the temple. However, considering that a lot of prequels/remakes these days are just glorified cash grabs, I think Human Revolution should go first. I want to show you how a defining plot element can be used in lore as well as action in order to make your story feel truly special and hook your audience in with ease. Just imagine how superior a character is when they are augmented in some way.
Malik,
Jensen, if you even think of using that Casey mod on me, I will hit you.
I wouldn't dream of it.
If you stick to the end of the video, you will be a creator who understands how to do a respectful prequel to a franchise, or an audience member who can tell the difference between lazy cash grabs and actual labors of creative love. So without further ado, let's put on our coats, slip on those shades, and ready our non-lethal augmentations. But first, a word from today's sponsor, Krav Maga's promotional videos. Yeah, situational awareness. To begin with, let's simply explain what the defining plot element is. I briefly mentioned it in my first Gothic video, but never went into too much detail. So, a defining plot element is a single characteristic of a story that looms above every other element in the setting. It isn't just center stage, it defines your universe and your story. People can't help but think of your setting when they see something similar in other media. For example, whenever I see a magical barrier in a movie, game, or book, I can't help but think of Gothic. This isn't because Gothic was the first game/story to ever use a barrier as an important plot element. It certainly wasn't, but rather due to the mass effect of the barrier on the setting. Everywhere you went in the colony, you could see how each community was affected by the barrier, and how their way of life changed because of it. In other words, in order to have a defining plot element, it's not enough to have something big and flashy like Marvel's endless supply of skybeams. Whatever defining plot element you add to your world, it must have a clearly visible effect that's easy for your audience to experience. Which is why I'm happy to say that Deus Ex Human Revolution has an even better defining plot element than Gothic: augmentations. Unlike the barrier, which looms above, occasionally rumbling, the augmentations are there with you always. In the story, in the gameplay, hell, even the soundtrack sounds augmented. It also helps that augmentations are literally a part of your character and other characters of the setting, so the experience is even more immersive. This means whenever there is a discussion regarding augmentations, Deus Ex's defining plot element, you are far more invested because they are a part of your character and you already use them during the course of the story. By their very nature, augmentations are highly divisive, so debates among fans on whether to use them or not are guaranteed. And as we like to say at the temple, debates about the lore and story are the lifeblood of a franchise. Also, unlike a magic barrier, augmentations are far closer to reality. True, the augmentations we have in the year 2025 of our Lord are nowhere near Deus Ex level, but the foundations are similar enough so we can form a connection. In short, Deus Ex's augmentations are awesome to look at, easily relatable, and have a clear all-present effect on the setting and its denizens. Now that we understand what makes the defining plot element of Deus Ex special, let's see what lessons we can learn from it. Good news, everyone! The defining plot element falls into the universal lessons category, so no need to divide the lesson by creator type this time. It doesn't matter if we are talking about a book, TV series, or game, the principles of a defining plot element are the same. It must have a clear, all-encompassing effect on the setting, the denizens should regularly discuss it, and ideally you can make it more relatable with a connection to our world. Keep in mind the defining plot element doesn't just have to be a magical construct or a technology. It can be a natural phenomenon, a certain creed, or even a set of items. It may take a while to figure out which type of defining plot element works best for you, but trust me, once you get it right, you'll have a distinct identity for your IP. Now let's move on to...
Is everything in place?
Almost.
What do you mean, almost?
I have spoken with Montreal. The broadcast satellites are ours when we need them. A few weeks of discomfort, and the public will be primed for our recall.
And the clinics?
We control their birth rates. They will do as we say.
I still think we should wait for the referendum.
We can't afford to wait. America's Science Board convenes next month.
But the mood among the delegates is shifting. I'm positive that given more time...
No. By going public with this discovery, Sarif is forcing our hand.
The world will not change overnight just because David Sarif wills it. Besides, we can do nothing until our biochip is ready.
I thought you said you were close.
Finding the correct nerve interface has proven more challenging than anticipated. Fortunately, thanks to David, I now know where to look.
Black and gold color ambient? Check. Mysterious man in a suit smoking a cigar? Check. A cabal of unknown powerful individuals discussing their plans for the world with an eerie message at the end? Fucking check. That, my beautiful temple people, is how you set up a proper OBE, or OBE. Once again, I make a reference to a term I covered in detail only in my first Gothic video. However, none of the games I covered so far have OBEs as strong as Gothics and Deus Exes. Oh yes, I see we have a question. Right, sorry, it's been a while since the first video. I've come up with a more clear definition this time. So, an OBE stands for Ongoing Background Event. As the name implies, it is an ongoing event that is happening in the background of the main story. It is characterized by the fact that it can never take center stage during the course of a given story. Its main purpose is to expand your world in the eyes of your audience by making them feel like the story they are currently involved in is but one of many. The best way to use an OBE is to have the denizens of your world refer to it throughout the story, pointing out the effects it has on the world. An OBE can be a war raging in another part of your setting, a plague, or an unfolding conspiracy by a powerful group. Another great thing about the OBE is that it can serve as a great plan B for audience engagement. If you fail to pique their interest with your main story, a well-implemented OBE just might get their attention. You can have a main story without an OBE, of course. However, I think you then run the risk of your audience feeling like the world only exists for the main story, and that there is nothing else outside it. You can also use multiple OBEs, however be careful not to overwhelm your audience with info. Now let's see how the developers of Deus Ex Human Revolution use the conspiracy OBE to further enrich their setting. The year is 2027. It is a time of great innovation and technological advancement. For the first time in human history, thanks to the miracle of augmentation technology, people are able to surpass the limits of the human body. Cybernetics, pharmaceuticals, and nanotechnological implants have basically paved the way for the human 2.0 to emerge. Cybernetic limbs, eyes, and even organs have given many people a new chance at life, whether by helping maimed veterans or those suffering from crippling diseases. However, as with anything that has great potential for improving the human condition, Many also saw the potential for the misuse of this wondrous new technology. The fear of the unknown played its part, and soon a strong opposition to augmentation was formed. This fear was enhanced by a mysterious cabal of wealthy individuals, hoping to sow further discord among the general populace. By playing on their fear of the unknown, they hoped to control the progress and very evolution of mankind. Haha, fiction. The interference of this mysterious group caused riots, murders, and a general state of perpetual fear across the entire country. Furthermore, they helped divide the country on the issue of augmentation, to the point that violence against the other side is justified. Haha, fiction. This divide created by the OB also divides the Deus Ex fanbase. Do you agree that human augmentation should be unregulated and free to develop? Do you believe it's playing God and should be completely banned? Maybe you fall somewhere in the middle and believe it should be heavily regulated. You see that? That is another benefit of a properly implemented OB. It makes your audience naturally debate amongst each other and ask their own questions about the world. This, of course, only grows their attachment to your IP, ensuring a loyal fanbase over a long time. So now that we've been reminded of what an OB is and how it benefits your work, let's see how you can use it. This is another great universal lesson for all creators, so pay attention. It doesn't matter if it's the main story of a book, TV series, or video game, an OB is a handy narrative tool. To create a well-aligned OB, start with these two simple questions. What else is going on in my world, and how does it affect the main story? From there, you can take something like a war, a magical phenomenon, an ancient curse, and have them happen at the same time as the main story. Ideally, have the protagonist learn about it through the comments of side characters. However, remember the most important rule. Do not resolve the OB during the course of the main story in your first book, game, or movie. You can eventually bring it into the spotlight as a reward for the audience's curiosity, but not before you give them a good bit of time to speculate on it. As mentioned, you can have multiple OBs, but make sure they don't overwhelm the audience and ideally complement each other. For example, you can have a war raging in the background while at the same time an epidemic of demonic possession is happening. Now that we've covered the benefits of the OB and how to use it, let's move on to Daleth Duskblade, lost heir to the Silvery Moon throne. He never considered himself worthy to be a king, always brooding in shadowy corners, while his noble cousins were out partying on Elfstein Island. Holy fuck. After the betrayal, his life was forever changed when he made the pact with the demon from which he gained the power of darkness in order to avenge his family. But even the demon did not know that Daleth was actually the son of the mother goddess Set. Okay, you get the point. A lot of writers have a nasty habit of turning their main characters into super special snowflakes, thus making it impossible for the audience to relate to them. The solution is the old saying, less is more. If you want to make relatability your priority as a writer, the comfortable protagonist is your best bet. The definition is simple. A comfortable protagonist is a character defined by 1 to 2 simple motivations or characteristics that make it easier for the audience to connect with them. They are not the chosen one, the heir to the throne, or the reincarnation of a god. Instead, they are just a normal person trying to exist and live as comfortably as they can in the world of your setting. When the call of adventure or destiny hits them, they have relatable, realistic reactions. They express joy, sadness, anger, and fear for the same things that we do, and at no point are they too special for us to understand. This does not mean that they can't be special in some way. Of course they can. The point is to have a personality outside this special trait. By having less super special traits in your character, you actually get more space for a relatable personality. What's great is that over time, if you properly grow the character, they can become both relatable and complex. This brings me to Adam Jensen, the protagonist of Deus Ex Human Revolution, aka Adam Dripson. At the beginning of the story, before all the fancy augmentations, Adam is just a regular security guy. He's arguing with some asshole over the phone and trying to figure out what his girlfriend is upset about today. Relatable, right? Then he has to deal with an asshole coworker while preparing for a big event where he's in charge of security. So to reiterate, just a regular guy, no uber special The Chosen One will come intro. And then, without warning, everything goes to shit. The company he works for, Seraph Industries, comes under attack from some unknown group of mercenaries. Adam does his best to fight back, but again, although a former SWAT officer, he's still just a guy. When he's ambushed by a group of basically augmented super soldiers, he has no chance, and he pays a heavy price. He is then pulled back from the edge of death through a complex surgery that honestly went too far. Holy shit. Why are you cutting off his arms, dude? At most he just needs new intestines and a forehead. He was not that seriously injured. Before the bullet to the head, I mean. So during the course of one evening, Adam's regular life is shattered, and he can never go back to what he was. By first introducing him as a regular person, and then having him lose everything, the developers ensured he would be a relatable and comfortable protagonist in whose shoes we could slip into easily. I mean, look at this part where his heart starts to beat again, when he thinks about the woman he loved and lost.
Haven't you lost enough people today?
I'm sorry.
We're seconds away. His body can take it. Miraculous. I think we got him, Doc. Give him the info link. Fine. Give me the telecom package.
Every time I watch this, my hands shake, as I can't wait to get my hands on the controls and help Adam get revenge. Even his signature catchphrase, "I never asked for this," works perfectly to endear him to us as the audience. Usually it's something you hear from some unrelatable edgelord protagonist. In Adam's case, however, we can actually understand and see what he never asked for. That's also another great way the developers made Adam a comfortable protagonist: loss. Loss is the most relatable thing to all of us as humans, but not some off-screen, terrible stuff happened bro bullshit, but on-screen and in visceral detail. However, Adam is not a comfortable protagonist just because he was a regular guy who lost everything. No, as the game goes on, we see he has an actual layered personality. He is not defined just by my tragic backstory. Eidos Montreal made great use of the extra space they had with Adam, which they gained by not making some uber special snowflake. He can be funny.
They picked off my brother for trying to set up shop in the area. Rest in peace, Big Rizzle.
Yeah, rip.
He's not racist. He can be kind. We can see his vulnerable side. And of course, he's an absolute based badass.
No one's afraid of you, Mr. Jensen. All your blundering around and childish interference hasn't stopped a thing. Tell me, have you been to a limb clinic lately?
Let me guess. That was supposed to shut me down, right? Leave me broken and begging.
The Augs were recalled. You should be offline.
Women never fail to underestimate men.
So to sum it up, his traits as a regular person who suffered a horrific loss, combined with the fact that he has an actual personality, make him a relatable and comfortable protagonist. Even though he's basically an augmented superhuman Iron Man, we can relate more to him than even some people in real life. Now let's see what lessons we can take away from this. Let me be clear. There is nothing wrong with having a protagonist that has some special trait or multiple special traits. The key to a relatable, comfortable protagonist is to leave enough room for a personality to grow, a personality the audience can get attached to. If I had to give you a very basic formula for a comfortable protagonist, it would go something like this. 1 relatable personality trait plus 1 relatable problem plus 1 special trait equals comfortable protagonist. The order of this formula is not random, by the way. Whether you're a game designer, novelist, or screenwriter, introduce your character's personality traits and problems first, and then you can add some special trait. The idea is for the audience to see your protagonists as relatable living beings first, and then they can accept whatever uber special powers they have. This approach is infinitely better than creating an uber special super snowflake of a character, which is nothing more than a walking plot device, and then blaming the audience for not connecting with them. I know that the young farmer boy who's secretly the chosen one / lost heir to the throne is a worn out trope. No arguing from me. But you have to realize this is one of the earliest prototypes of the comfortable protagonist, and it worked for quite a while. I'll give you a more modern example using this formula. Your comfortable protagonist can be a janitor with a love of justice as a personality trait. His flaw can be that he is a barely functioning alcoholic off shift. Finally, his super special trait, which caused his flaw, is that he's a brilliant former pharmaceutical scientist. The drug he developed was misused and caused a wave of addiction and health problems for people. He is now actively working to take down a group of CEOs bad timing. Well, you get the idea of how you can use this formula to make your own comfortable protagonist, no matter what type of creator you are. Do this and the audience will easily enjoy a glass of whiskey alongside your comfortable protagonist. Now enjoy a glass of whiskey with me, as we take a break between lessons in the recently reopened Temple Bar. It's really good to have you here, you know? I believe together we can bring life back into the old temple. If along the way we raise the standard of quality in storytelling for both audiences and creators, then that's a really nice bonus. Alright, break's over, now let's move on to...
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh no! Oh yeah!
If you watched my last video on Stalker, you'll remember how I praised the total mechanical immersion approach that GSC Game World took with Stalker. This means that player immersion was their priority on every single game level, from visuals and audio to NPC schedules. In the case of Deus Ex Human Revolution, Eidos Montreal used a different approach to immersion, known as T.I.I, or Total Interactive Immersion. Definition time. Unlike TMI, in which immersion is prioritized on every single game level, Total Interactive Immersion is when a developer focuses on developing immersion on a single game level, interactivity. However, the interactivity with the environment of the game is done to such an extent that players don't need anything else to get immersed. What the game may lack in, say, NPC routines or realistic day-night cycles, it makes up for in the sheer breadth of choices when it comes to interacting with the environment. In Deus Ex Human Revolution, the levels are so interactive that you can lose hours of real time just looking for interactable objects in the environment. From simple boxes to sewer grates, to even scam email, the environment in Human Revolution feels alive. Unlike some modern games I could name, each level has multiple entry points, and the way you interact with those entry points depends on you. For example, Deus Ex Human Revolution actually has fun hacking, unlike some games, so using it to gain entry to mission levels is a lot of fun. During the first mission, I used distractions in this area here and this area here in order to make a clear path for myself here. The interactivity doesn't just end with what you can move, read, and how you enter a building, but goes into the very missions themselves. You can use air ducts to avoid enemies, hack computers to trigger turrets or environmental hazards, and even bend the environmental elements with certain augmentations. Speaking of augmentations, they are also part of the T.I.I. and help you interact with the environment in new ways. Tired of using ladders or stairs? Install the Icarus landing system. Have a phobia of using doors in video games? Enhance the Cyberon prosthesis and become the edgy Kool-Aid man you were always meant to be. You have OCD and want to predict every movement of the enemy? Install the wall-penetrating imager augmentation. The interactivity even extends to how you install augmentations. In most games you have something like a character sheet where you raise a few numbers and select some power icons, and off you go. In Deus Ex Human Revolution, you literally see the X-ray images on Adam's body, where the upgrades will be installed, and a brief description of how that augmentation functions. A nice plus to immersion is also how they explain the leveling process in the game. You see, Adam already has all the augmentations installed within himself. What you do during the game by gaining experience is simply naturally unlocking them as Adam's brain adapts to the new tech. The process of adaptation is made faster with items called praxis kits, which you can buy or find in hidden stashes across the environment, thus further incentivizing exploration and interaction. Another reason the augmentations work so well for interactive immersion is because they are actual game-changer powers, rather than +1 to attack bullshit we see in a lot of games. So far I've praised interactivity as a great immersion tool, but remember one important thing. It's not enough to just have an interactive environment. There has to be a purpose in interacting with those objects, either for immersion, rewards, or quest progression. The players don't want to move that bookshelf to the side because they love moving bookshelves. They want to see if there is a safe behind it. For example, the first open level of Deus Ex Human Revolution, Seraph Industries, is a great example of interactivity done right. When you enter the building, you can immediately go to your office and interact with the computer to get back up to date on recent company events. You even use your computer to pick up some side quests the same way you would in real life. You even have co-workers visit you when you don't want to, just like in real life. If you walk around the building, you'll see that each office has a name and a number and can be interacted with. Each interaction rewards you with useful items or more info about recent or past events. This ability to interact with your starting environment also helps you get attached to the company staff and treat the place as a sort of home away from home. As far as immersive intros go, it's no West Harbor, but it's good enough in my opinion. Oh yeah, I almost forgot, one final tip. If you want to get the most out of the interactive environments of Human Revolution, go for the utility augs first, like the Icarus landing system or the Cyberarm prosthesis. Even the way you interact with hostile NPCs to dispose of them can be enhanced by installing the Quicksilver Booster augmentation. Trust me, install this upgrade and enjoy those satisfying takedowns. Now let's see what we can learn from the interactive immersion of Deus Ex Human Revolution. If for some reason you are unable to make your sound design, visuals or story work together to immerse your audience into the setting, you can always focus on total interactive immersion to get the job done. Again, the interactivity has to have a purpose to immerse the audience, whether it's for lore, rewards, or combat efficiency. A nice bonus is that if the tool you are using for interactivity, like the augmentations in Deus Ex Human Revolution, is tied closely to the main story, then the audience can more easily immerse themselves in said story. We don't care about the main story of Deus Ex Human Revolution and Adam's struggle because it is a masterclass in writing. It's not. But rather because we have used these augmentations ourselves during the course of the story. When they talk about the potential or dangers of augmentation during the course of the main story, we feel a part of the discussion because of the way we interacted with the environment using said augmentations. Augmented people can escape justice more easily. Well yeah, the tactical cloak augmentation was my get out of jail card in many situations. Augmented people can cause more harm than the average human. Yeah, have you seen the Typhoon augmentation? I know it's a bit complex, but hopefully you understand how the tool you give your audience to interact with the environment can also determine how they interact with the main story. Just try to imagine the Deus Ex Human Revolution augmentation debate if, for example, all your augmentations were just non-interactive numerical bonuses to base stats. Game designers, please don't take this as you have to make every single house in your game enterable and full of loot. This is not what I'm saying, especially the second part. All you need to do is make sure the way your audience interacts with your game world is related to the main story, or the choices they made during said story. Maybe the only interaction with the environment that you can give your players is climbing ladders. In that case, make sure that when they climb those ladders, they get some unique reward, a new way to approach an encounter, or even a hidden story section. This will ensure that your players will, at the very least, be immersed in the game world due to its many secrets, but ideally it will make them care about the main story a bit more as well. Novelists and screenwriters, you can breathe easy, as you can implement T.I.I. much easier than game designers. If you're writing an action sequence or having the characters enter some mysterious area for the first time, think about what they can do in the environment before you get to the main story beat. Perhaps show the characters preparing some kind of special trick for their upcoming encounter, but don't outright reveal what it is. Maybe have the character notice some details in the environment, and by interacting with these details they can get an edge over their foe. The simple point is this: whether you're a game designer, screenwriter, or novelist, increasing the interactivity of your environment can immerse your audience in a way your main story never could. Now let's move on to...
Hey, American. Go Yankees!
When you hear the word tactical, you'd be right to assume that the word combat should follow. However, Deus Ex Human Revolution made an exception to this rule: tactical dialogue.
You talk tough, but we both know that's all you can do. Deep down, you're nothing but a coward. Well, trust me, tough guy. I'm the real thing. If you don't give me what I want, I won't beat you up. I'll kill you.
Now listen, man.
If you watched my Neverwinter Nights 2 video, you'll remember the term Battle of Words. It's basically a gameplay segment where a developer decides that the players need to use their wits and a breadth of interesting dialogue options to progress, rather than just brute force. When done well, the player feels rewarded for A. taking the time to prepare for the Battle of Words, B. carefully considering the best dialogue options, C. reaching the end of the segment with the best possible verbal outcome. Now, Eidos Montreal did something unexpected. They took the Battle of Words and made it into a tense tactical situation. While the general idea is the same, the player has to rely on words, not swords, to complete their objective, the presentation is vastly different. Let's define it. Tactical dialogue is an upgraded Battle of Words where the player feels greater tension and immersion. This is due to the implementation of various visual cues not usually seen in an ordinary Battle of Words. I'll make this as simple as possible with an example. If we take the trial segment of Neverwinter Nights 2 as a classic example of a Battle of Words, we see the presence of various interesting dialogue options. However, as far as interactivity and immersion go, the players only need to read the dialogue options carefully and consider which one is the best. In Human Revolution, apart from needing to carefully read the dialogue options and consider them, you also need to pay attention to the facial expression and body language of the NPCs. However, the true tactical dialogue of Human Revolution only kicks in after you install an augmentation called Casey. This gives you about 4 to 5 different visual elements you need to keep track of: persuasion level meter, psych profile, personality traits, etc. However, the most important visual element here is the red pill coach personality type bar below the persuasion meter. It divides the personality types of your targets into alpha, beta, and omega. Each personality type requires a different approach, and you will know what the right approach is if you pay attention to the flashing of the 3 dots below each personality type. Be careful, however, just because a slot below alpha flashed once does not automatically make the target an alpha personality. The key to the correct dialogue option is in how many times a personality type slot flashes and how many are flashing at the moment, 1, 2, or 3. Without the Casey mod, you have to guess which personality type the target is based on their body language and choice of words. With Casey, apart from all the visual elements I mentioned, you even get a second chance to force a conversation in the direction you want, by releasing the correct pheromones. Of course, a reward in loot, information, or both awaits you at the end of the tactical dialogue segment. I'm going to be honest with you, my temple people. In terms of player engagement, I think this is the best dialogue system in gaming. Period. If I am wrong and there is a game that does engaging dialogue better than Deus Ex Human Revolution, feel free to correct me in the comments. Now on to the lesson.
Hello, Archon Oakwell, sir. Reporting in that the Temple Imaginarium has been fully reactivated and is ready for lesson consumption.
How about that? bringing the temple back to life bit by bit. Alright everyone, pick up your stuff and let's move on to the Imaginarium. It feels good to have this place up and running again. Pay attention to the projection pedestal, and let's engage ourselves in the lessons of tactical dialogue. Let's get something out of the way at the start. Having interesting and branching dialogue options for a Battle of Words segment is absolutely great. It will engage the players in a way they did not expect, and make them appreciate your writing even more. The engaging visuals and visual cues of tactical dialogue are for those who want to take the extra step to just pull in the audience into a great conversation right away. The principle of tactical dialogue is simple. By forcing the audience to pay attention to multiple visual elements other than the dialogue options, you instantly make them more engaged in the moment. Add to that the proper reactions from the other participant, and you've achieved complete tactical dialogue. Now, there is some difference in implementing tactical dialogue depending on the type of creator you are. Let's start with the most disadvantaged group of all: novelists. As a novelist, you most likely do not have access to visuals and audio. In that case, the best way to achieve tactical dialogue in a book is to make sure that there is a set of repeating descriptions in crucial conversations. For example, you could describe a specific noise in your character's head that signifies the importance of the conversation, that helps them get their way. Game designers and screenwriters, thanks to your access to visuals and audio, you can do a lot more. For example, as a game designer, you can design a special UI for dialogue that requires the player to keep track of multiple elements and visual cues. These visual elements can track the bodily reactions of the target, like the ones in Human Revolution, scanning for heart rate, personality traits, and personality types. But for example, if you have a fantasy game on your hands, you could make the dialogue more tactical and engaging by having a certain power activate during the course of a conversation. This power can either make the conversation go the player's way, or at the very least raise some tension as to what might happen. Although quick-time events are usually a bad idea, they can work if combined with a well-done tactical dialogue interface. For example, seizing a short window of opportunity to debunk someone after seeing a spike in their heart rate or a specific glow in their aura can be a great tool for immersion and engagement. Screenwriters, think about the character having a certain power that's visually distinct and can turn the conversation in the protagonist's favor. For example, an internal monologue followed by a visualization of a potential scenario that could play out. This does wonders to engage the audience and make them feel more tense during a scene. If you can have the antagonist use the same power, all the better for your brand of tactical dialogue. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. A warning to both screenwriters and game designers. Just putting visual elements on screen without thinking about how they naturally flow with the conversation is a huge mistake. It can backfire and make your tactical dialogue a complete joke. If you take the time to develop a proper tactical dialogue system that flows well with the conversation your characters are having, there is no doubt in my mind you'll keep the audience hooked until the very end of your story. So, with the lessons of tactical dialogue out of the way, let's move on to
You're too late, Mr. Jensen. Once this hack is complete, I will experience 30 years of Balkan life in an instant.
Step away from the console, now!
Help me!
I'll be honest with you, Temple people, as I was playing through Human Revolution, I honestly thought that I wasn't going to have any material for the lessons and failures section. I played the director's cut version, which removes the annoying yellow filter of the OG game and gives it a dark cyber-noir look. Yeah, that's actually a great way to describe Human Revolution. A wonderfully engaging and immersive cyber-noir story. Each major encounter and conversation, apart from the tactical dialogue, also has these pre-rendered cinematics where the color pattern perfectly matches the setting theme. Even the locations you visit each tell a different story that stays in line with the themes established in the intro cinematic. From the slightly less violent version of real-life Detroit to the dystopian sprawl of Hengsha, the jewel of the Orient.
Son of a bitch. We're supposed to find answers in that.
Hey, twice the scum and half the space. Hang on, we're going in. The address you got off that Merc, Hengshaw Court Gardens? It's a bit of a walk from here in the Yuzhou district, but I figured it might be best not to drop you too close.
In case Barrett only gave up the address, knowing I'd walk into another trap.
It's the kind of thing I'd do to an enemy. You want my advice? Just find out who lives there and get out.
The NPCs react appropriately based on what type of approach you take to complete their quests. Even the world itself is like a less powerful version of the evolving world from Gothic 2. What I mean by this is that the locations you travel to change, not to the extent of those in Gothic 2, but enough to make you feel like the world is changing with you. Even the boss battles, which were criticized by a lot of people, didn't bother me that much. Especially since I was playing the director's cut, which gives you extra options to take down all these bosses, mostly for the stealth builds. Despite it being set in a near future Earth, the varieties of bosses are really impressive. A humanity purist, an augmented walking tank, a Bulgarian woman, and of course, a reaction YouTuber.
Computer, begin EEG sync.
So much pain. Syncing beta waves at 40 cycles per second. Sleep, please. Let me sleep. Incompatible master-slave chain detected. Alert. Unable to transfer control to Alpha Pod.
Finally, I was in awe of the musical score by Michael McCann. I'm not exaggerating when I say this man did not miss a single beat. From the various locations in the game to even cinematics with no voiceover, the music remains appropriate and goddamn jaw-dropping. Have a listen to this music here, and how it combines with the visuals.
Electrodynamic launch assist sequence commencing. Beginning descent.
Yeah, rip.
The only thing I could think of was maybe that the intro is a bit too long. So anyone who's more on the gimme action ASAP side will probably get turned off by the game. Also, despite riding solo for the entirety of the game, you do meet some well-written side characters who really grow on you during the story. My favorite, of course, is my fly girl Malik, and you better believe I went back to save her.
Jensen, the bird's fixed and I'm taking off. Now get on with the damned mission. And thanks, bye boy.
But sadly, other than one side quest, you don't really get a chance to spend a lot of time with her. I suppose that can also be a minor critique, not enough time spent with lovable characters. But other than those minor hiccups, I was really having a blast with Human Revolution. Then I started noticing some signs when I got to the Missing Link DLC. Don't get me wrong, it's still a great adventure that fits nicely into the main story, with some really heavy themes and tough choices. However, there was a bit of extra backtracking which felt like it was only there to pad out playtime. Also, the main villain of the DLC was a bit of a generic evil merc boss, but hey, it was fun to kill him. My worries disappeared after the DLC as I continued towards the end of the game. Once again, I was having a blast just enjoying the grand build-up the developers masterfully crafted. As the father of augmentation unleashes chaos on the world, Jensen rushes to reach the most advanced facility in the world, Pangaea, to try and minimize the damage. After he arrives on Pangaea, I was surprised that we even got a superb horror sequence in this cyber-noir story.
not real! Wait, what? Away, Ghost! Go away! Go! Fuck! 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 Get away! Get away! I'm closer!
There, beyond this man-made horror, you face the father of augmentation, and using the amazing tactical dialogue, force him to see the error in his ways. You may be wondering at this point, Okwals, there is not a lot of failure in this lesson from failure section. Well, that's because I wanted you to feel the same excitement and build up that I did up to this point in the game. So, after walking through a horde of mind-controlled victims, talking down the father of augmentation, and making your way down into the very core of Pangaea, you come face to face with an overly ambitious woman who wants to be part of a secret order that would never accept her. She uses the most advanced computer in existence against you, but you still manage to prevail. And then, at the end, you are given 4 endings that do not address any of the choices you made during the game. And no, a slight change in the comments based on your playstyle is not enough. All 4 endings also have these generic videos from various parts of history that, at least in my opinion, just take you out of the experience. Also, Adam is using some big think talk in the background, but honestly, the visuals and lack of closure are so jarring that it's hard to pay attention. I mean literally, without exaggeration, after an entire journey of amazing choices, you are put in a fucking video editing room and you are given 4 buttons to press. That's it. The event that happened just before the ending, which would come to be known as the AUG incident, is world-shattering. Look at this. 50 million people died during the incident. 50 million! And we get 4 buttons? Some black and white footage and Adam monologuing about morality? Dude, 50 million people just died. Whatever bullshit comes out of this room after you press one of those buttons is not fixing anything. Look, I'm aware that this was 95% because the developers ran out of time, but holy shit, in that case, cut your losses and adjust properly. I would have much preferred a single ending that just covered the devastation of the AUG incident, and how Adam's actions affected the future, rather than just brushing off the entire thing with some dribble about morality. Shut up, Adam! When I see these endings with the generic monologuing about morality with generic footage in the background, it reminds me of... No, it does not exist. It does not exist. We agreed on this.
Orcs keep killing humans. Humans keep killing orcs. And orcs
and then they live together in peace. Oh well, I guess we should focus on the journey rather than the destination. Now let's see what lessons we can learn from the failures of Deus Ex Human Revolution. Thankfully, the lessons here are universal, so all creators will benefit from heeding this warning. First, let's go over the pet peeves. Whether you're a game designer, novelist, or screenwriter, avoid needless backtracking or filler just to prolong your story. Trust me, the audience will prefer a shorter and smoother experience to an artificially extended one. Also, if you have already put in the effort to write likable side characters, devote some extra time to flesh them out through interactions with the protagonist. You'd be surprised how a single well-crafted mission can get the audience attached to a character. Now for the elephant in the room. Creators, while it is admirable if you create an amazing journey for your story, filled with interesting choices, you have to realize that this places extra pressure on the ending. If you engage the audience with your world and story, the need for closure by the end is great indeed. This means you can't just go in with the approach of, well, 90% of the story is amazing, who gives a shit about the last 10%? Everyone who enjoyed your work gives a shit. Trust me when I say this, it is much better to have a single, well-written ending that addresses the choices and events that happen in the story, rather than 3 to 4 generic ones. For example, if you had a world-shattering event that happened just before the ending, like the AUG incident, do not brush it off so you can cram as much pointless content into your ending. Let that world-changing event be the main focus of the ending. Focus on how this event changed the places we visited in the story, and then you can add in some changes brought about by the protagonist's actions. In other words, quality of endings over quantity of endings. I'm sorry if it seemed like I was a bit too harsh on Eidos Montreal here, but like I said, the greater the investment in the journey, the bigger the disappointment if the ending is not satisfying. Before we move on, I'd like to pose you all a simple question. Do you agree with the previous statement? Does greater enjoyment during the journey equal greater disappointment if the ending is bad? I want to know how many of you can separate the journey from the ending and thus experience less disappointment. Now, finally, time for us to get to...
Your feelings for her are not real. They are real to me!
So those would be the lessons from one of my favorite game journeys, whose ending I try to ignore. It truly offers an incredible ride through a plethora of interesting settings and concepts, supported by masterful dialogue mechanics. If you're looking to immerse yourself in a story and world made stronger by interactivity and freedom of choice, Deus Ex Human Revolution is a safe bet. Say you're a creator who came up with a fantastic defining plot element and OB, and want to make them even stronger with immersive interactivity and tactical dialogue. You have a great example of how to do it right with this game. The complete experience that you get in the director's cut is available on GOG for more than a fair price. If you watched the video up to this point, you may be wondering, all these lessons seem like they are for creators, but I'm just an average video game / book / movie enjoyer. Why do I have to learn these lessons? Well, for one, you only have to learn the theory. It's the creators who learn the theory and then put it into practice. However, the main reason for you to learn these lessons is to hone your taste and fine-tune your bullshit detectors. That way you can never be fooled by cheap cash grab remakes, and most important of all, you will learn to recognize quality creators that you should support. Even if the creators learn all these lessons to the letter, it means little if they don't have people who recognize their value and support them. So heed these words, my enlightened temple people, and let entertainment be cleansed through your knowledge. All you need to do is identify, appreciate, and support creators who provide you with interactive settings with dialogue that pulls you in from the get-go. Identify a good OB, appreciate the use of tactical dialogue, and finally, support creators who make sure you get a satisfying journey to the very end. A world where quality storytelling is considered a societal virtue is a better world. A world in which people are not afraid to be hopeful and don't have to hide behind insecure sarcasm and degeneracy.
Okay, you don't want to do this.
Everybody always has the same holes over and over again. It gets...
Looks like that's it for our time in the distant future of 2027. Oh god. For my next video, I'd like you all to bring me a nice crisp piece of meat. Once again, you braved the long climb to my home and made it come to life with your presence. It's damn good to have you here. In time, I hope a lot of new people will choose to stay at the temple with me. There is so much to be done, and so many dormant functions to reactivate. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, as it helps with the upkeep of the temple, and helps those who are still climbing find their way here. Have a safe path down the mountain, and I'll see you next time in the temple.